Good morning, everybody. My name is Brandon Doggett, and welcome to the second episode of the second season of The Brief. We have a very kind of short episode and an early one planned today, so let's get right into it. So, a quick little recap from yesterday's episode. We talked about Representative Eric Swalwell and Representative Tony Gonzalez. They have both officially resigned. They are no longer members of Congress as of this morning. And also, yesterday, we presented that video of a fifth accuser coming forward. There is, I believe, the Los Angeles DA or the Los Angeles, somebody is investigating that fifth accuser's claim from that press conference yesterday. And so we'll continue to keep you guys updated if anything new comes from that story. Also, some programming here. Excuse me. There will not be a BDN War Room episode today due to scheduling conflicts. However, tomorrow we will be back again right after this show like we normally do. That's the plan, is right after the show. It would normally be there. Just today we have a scheduling conflict that we're not able to get through or get to the BDN War Room. Excuse me. The first story that I want to present to you guys today, very interesting. This happened yesterday at the University of Georgia in Athens, UGA. Vice President J.D. Vance was there. He was at a Turning Point USA event. He was having a speech, and Erika Kirk was supposed to be there, and she canceled due to, quote, serious threats. And so it was just J.D. Vance and somebody else from Turning Point. I'm blanking on the name. Andrew Colvett. It was, Andrew Colvett and J.D. Vance. And so I want to show you guys this empty arena here. Look at this. This is pretty crazy. Well, you can kind of see the emptiness in the background, actually. So really, it's just the front, like the floor that's full. But then you can see kind of in the back there, like all of those seats are empty. And so this was a 8,000 capacity arena at UGA, and about 1,200, so 1,200 people were at this event. So it was already not a lot of people. And even then, Vice President Vance was still heckled. So this was for This is the Turning Point tour going to colleges across the country. And I want to show you guys this first clip here of J.D. Vance speaking and getting heckled. It's a little bit longer of a clip, but let's get right into it.
When you see a politician or you see a political movement or you see an administration that isn't doing what you want to do, I think you have two choices. You can say, to hell with those people and check out of the process. Or you can say, you know what?
Whoops, I'm just kidding. That was the wrong clip. It was loaded incorrectly. Let me play the actual correct clip that I'm talking about. This is like a 4-minute clip of him talking. We will play that clip that I was playing accidentally in a second, but I want to play this clip, is a different one from the same speech.
The reaction to this is to say, well, he shouldn't have said that. And look, there are certainly things that the Pope has said in the last few months that I disagree with. Let me just take like one very concrete example related to this conflict in Iran. So the Pope said something where he said, and I'm gonna try to remember the exact quote, but he said that God is never on the side of those who wield the sword. God is never on the side of those who wield the sword. I'm pretty sure that he said that exact statement. Now, on the one hand, again, I like that the Pope is an advocate for peace. I think that's certainly one of his roles. On the other hand, how can you say that God is never on the side of those who wield the sword? Was God on the side of the Americans who liberated France from the Nazis? Was God on the side of the Americans who liberated Holocaust camps and liberated those innocent people from, those who had survived the Holocaust? I certainly think the answer is yes, and I agree. Jesus Christ does not. I agree. Jesus Christ certainly does not support genocide. Whoever yelled that out from the dark, he certainly does not. I think that's pretty easy. I think that's a pretty easy principle. Okay, so here's a guy. Let me just say this. This is a guy. No. First of all, random dude who's shouting, can I finish my point and then I'll respond to what you just shouted? Is that okay? Okay, great.
Yeah, can we give him 1 second to answer this?
So let me just finish this question on the Pope, and then I want to respond to what this guy said. So Number one, when the Pope says that God is never on the side of those who wield the sword, there is more than a 1,000-year tradition of just war theory. Okay? Now, we can, of course, have disagreements about whether this or that conflict is just, but I think that it's important, in the same way that it's important for the Vice President of the United States to be careful when I talk about matters of public policy, I think it's very, very important for the Pope to be careful when he talks about matters of theology. And I think that one of these issues here is that there has been, again, hey, random dude screaming, I told you I'd respond to your point. I just want to respond to this question first. But I think one of the issues here is that if you're going to opine on matters of theology, you've got to be careful. You've got to make sure it's anchored in the truth. And that's one of the things that I try to do. And it's certainly something I would expect from the clergy, whether they're Catholic or Protestant. Now, to respond to this guy here, he said, I believe he said the administration supports a genocide in Gaza. And here's my response to that. When we came in, the humanitarian situation in Gaza was an absolute catastrophe. You know who's the person who got a peace agreement in Gaza? Donald J. Trump. So if you want to complain about what happened in Gaza, so if you want, sir, to complain about what happened in Gaza, why don't you complain about Joe Biden and the last administration? We're the administration that solved that problem. And by the way, not only was our administration like the administration that solved the problem, but the president, excuse me, sir, right now, you see more humanitarian aid coming into Gaza than it has any time in the past 5 years, because we have taken that situation seriously. And that's one of the things that I'm proud of about our administration, is whether it's there or Thailand and Cambodia, we have consistently tried as much as we can to solve these problems, not just complain about them like the guy who just ran away angry.
All right, so that was that first clip of Vice President JD Vance. He was getting heckled. Actually, you kind of heard the person. If you didn't, I think they did a good job of having the mic on him and only picking up his sound when he was speaking. But in the first person, or I think it might be the same person. I'm actually not sure. I'm aware that I think the person left. There was a picture of them leaving circulating online, but they shouted that Jesus Christ does not support genocide, and then Vance. He was discussing the Pope, and then he responded by saying that, yes, Jesus does not support genocide. And so maybe that shows kind of his belief on what, if it is a genocide, isn't. Maybe he doesn't believe it's a genocide because he agrees that Jesus Christ wouldn't support it or doesn't support a genocide. Also saying that you're killing children, you're bombing children. But Vance was defending President Trump's humanitarian record in Gaza and the ceasefire. We have consistently tried to solve these problems, not just complain about them like the guy who just ran away. That was the last kind of sentence that he said before the end of that clip there. The second clip that I accidentally showed y'all first, that I meant to show y'all now, is Vice President Vance admitting that young voters do not like the policy in the Middle East. And I'm going to discuss why this is important in a second, right after I show you guys that clip.
When you see a politician or you see a political movement or you see an administration that isn't doing what you want to do, I think you have two choices. You can say, to hell with those people and check out of the process. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to get more involved. I'm going to make my voice heard even more. I'm going to pressure that administration to do exactly what I want them to do because they got my vote, they earned my vote, but they can't take it for granted. And I've seen some of this, on various issues. Like for example, I recognize that a lot of young voters don't love the policy that we have in the Middle East. Okay, I understand that.
All right, so he says that he understands that the young voters do not like the policy that we have going on in the Middle East. And this is important. It's a rare concession, that an agreement that from the administration or a member of the administration that, hey, yeah, there is a large majority of the population that does not agree with what we're doing in the Middle East. That's the first time they've kind of done that since the war started 7 weeks ago. And I also had some analysis from this too, something that I kind of thought, and this to me just sounds like 2028. This just screams 2028 to me because I think that him trying to agree with the younger population or trying to at least be relatable to the younger population is at least him gearing up to have their support or at least grow a base to build that foundation and base before he announces an official 2028 run for president. I think this is very, very much a premeditated thing that this was definitely planned. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, my analysis. That is how I saw him trying to be relatable. It's kind of reminiscent on how Kamala Harris attempted to do so in the 100 and what 107 103 days that she had to run her campaign after Joe Biden dropped out of the race in 2024, July 21st, 2024. I remember that exact day actually because I texted my parents 3 days before on July 18th, 2024. And this is when I was just starting to get into my getting into politics really and learning about it and my researching. And I said in a text on July 18th, 2024, that Joe Biden will drop out by July 21st, on or by. I think I said that. And that was correct. I ended up getting the date correct to the day, actually, because I'm just like that. And that day is very, very, I remember that day a lot. It's stuck in my memory because I predicted that right. And so back to this, that this whole speech kind of reminds me of what Kamala Harris was trying to do in that short amount of time. But now they have 2 years, 2.5 years to get that whole messaging and that base formed and all of that. So it's very interesting to see that coming to light. I'm going to take a quick break here. And then we'll be right back after the break. We're going to talk about Italy's prime minister. We're also going to talk about the International Monetary Fund and the World Economic Outlook, and which I just started learning about. I actually didn't know much about that. Also, we're going to talk about Americans actually growing fonder of China. They seem to be liking China. There's some new data from the Pew Research Center. And also, we have a tiny little update on our Alex Cooper and Alex Earl story. We will be right back after a quick break. All right, you guys, welcome back from the break. We are back. The first thing that we are going to discuss is this story coming out of Italy. So, Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, and President Trump are beefing right now because basically they are allies first and foremost. They have always been allies for a long time, and Meloni supported Trump even when your other European leaders did not. But this was triggered by two events. The first being this post that President Trump made to Truth Social, maybe the other day, yesterday or the day before that, if I can find it. There it is. Okay. I'm not going to read all of it because I think I read it yesterday. Actually, I know I read it yesterday because it was long and I don't want to read it all again. But he was criticizing Pope Leo on his stance on the Iran war and calling him weak and illiberal. Basically, that's the gist of it. And Meloni did not like that, and she criticized Trump on that. Also, yesterday, Italy, said that they are going to be suspending their defense agreement with Israel. So this defense agreement has been in place since 2005, and this is from the New York Times I'm reading right now, says that it established cooperation between the two countries in areas including, quote, defense industry and procurement policy, importing and exporting military equipment, exchanging technical data and other forms of military collaboration. It is renewed every 5 years, and it was set for a renewal this month, but they announced that they would not be renewing it this year. And Italy has been critical of this war. I think it was their foreign minister went to Lebanon to show their support for the Lebanese people and made a post to social media saying their support for the Lebanese people after Israel continued bombing. Excuse me. After Israel continued bombing them. And so we have some beef going on between them. So there was those two events, and Trump called her calling her response, unacceptable, and she backed the Pope earlier this week, as we said. But something I also wanted to note that is important to this story here is that came out today in Euronews.com. 1 million Europeans asked the EU to suspend association agreement with Israel for, quote, crimes in Gaza, unquote. And so what's needed in the European Union, it's a law, is 1 million signatures. And the European Commission and the European Parliament then have to assess that request. So that petition has reached 1 million signatures, which is required. And so now they will have to assess what's in that text, which I don't know the exact text, but that's what the headline says. So we'll see where that goes from there. Some interesting opposition to the war in Europe. And we also saw Spain oppose, and France and the UK have also come out, and they have their own peace negotiation conference thing they're doing that I talked about yesterday in the BDN War Room. And so we have some different ways, different objectives for each different country, as we can clearly see. And so we'll just have to see where that goes from there. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, warns global economy is heading for trouble. This came out yesterday when they released their World Economic Outlook report, and it cut the global growth forecast to 3.1% for 2026. It started at 3.4%. So the economic growth was supposed to be slated for 3.4% this year, but then they cut it to 3.1% because of the war. But then they said that the global inflation forecast bumped back up to 4.4%. Okay, so we have inflation going up and growth going down. But then they also laid out 3 scenarios. There's a best case, an adverse, and a severe. So best, moderate, severe. Best case is that we stay on our 3.1% growth that we're currently on right now. The adverse or moderate scenario is that we drop down to a 2.5% growth, and increase our inflation to 5.4%. And the last and severest, worst case scenario is around 2% growth. There wasn't an inflation number I didn't see, but they also said that this would basically constitute a global recession, and that only happened in four times since 1980, the last time being in 2009. So quite a while since the last one. The low-income countries would be hit twice as hard as the more advanced economies, and the UK would also get the hardest hit of any wealthy country, with the growth forecast slashed by 0.5 points, half a point. So we have a lot of disruption in the global markets here from this war. And I kind of touched on this, I think, in the war room yesterday, where it's not just we're not getting gas or gas prices are high. It's like broadening the effects of the war. And so this is just one of those effects. Oil is still around over-ish $95 a barrel before I started this episode. The OPEC output is down 27%. And the chief economist at the International Monetary Fund says, quote, war in the Middle East has halted this momentum. So there was momentum, and then the war halted it. Anyways, moving on to another story here. This is really interesting. This is maybe a heartwarming one, but could have been bad. So this came out of Oklahoma, Pauls Valley. It's in the Chickasaw Nation, just south of Norman and Oklahoma City. I want to show you guys this video at Pauls Valley High School, where the principal, Kirk Moore, tackled a shooter who was a former student. Let's watch that video. Yeah, absolutely incredible video. He's just holding him down there, um, while the other guy grabs the weapon from him, and what could have been just an absolutely awful scenario. And so that ended in the absolute best case scenario. And so we're super happy about that. But yeah, that was just like really, it's making its way around social media right now, circulating. It's a very popular video, viral video that's going around. Okay, I want to get back to our Alex Cooper and Alex Earl drama because as of the latest update, which is before I started this live stream, Alex Earl posted a video. It was a video recorded by her friends of her getting woken up, I believe, on Sunday or Monday. I don't know when. And then they're playing the Alex Cooper video. And so we can kind of see a reaction. It's kind of hard to tell, and it's a weird video, but I'm going to show it to you guys anyway because it's all we have, and it's the only update we have. But then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think it's PR stunt right after the video.
So we have to show you a TikTok.
Hey guys. You know I don't usually address this kind of stuff because
Is it funny?
it feels like a waste of time, and honestly,
No.
it's embarrassing to participate in this. Other people, and just say it yourself. What's the beef?
Okay.
I'm really.
Are you okay? Guys, my fucking voice. Wait, that just literally made my whole day.
Yeah. So that's all we have on Alex Cooper and Alex Earl as of today, right now. But I think on Wednesdays, Alex Cooper releases her Call Her Daddy episodes, if I'm not mistaken. And today is Wednesday. And so we may be getting an episode. This could be an entire PR stunt that literally the entire world has fallen for, including myself, who's, I would say, quite a critical thinker. I mean, I guess the possibility of it being a PR stunt did come into my mind, but I was just like, this is so interesting. I have to at least talk about it. And that's why I discussed it yesterday. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We're not entirely sure what this feud is. Maybe Alex Earl will pop up on Alex Cooper's podcast today or whenever that episode's released. We actually don't know. But if that happens, I'm sure there will be something juicy, and y'all know I will definitely cover it when that happens. Moving on to our final story today. I told you guys this is going to be a little bit of a short episode, but like I said, scheduling conflicts, and so we've had to cut things short and move it earlier today. However, this new Pew Research Center survey dropped yesterday after I got off the air, and Americans are growing fonder of China. Let's take a look at this graph here. Actually, first, I want to tell you guys about the data first, the variables. So they surveyed 8,500 plus adults in January and March, and so this was this year. And then in 2023, they did the same thing. But they do this every year, but they're comparing the data to 2023 because that's when it was like at its lowest approval of China. So in 2023, 14% of Americans had a favorable view of China. That's nearly doubled to 27%. Like I said, let's take a look at this graph here. Okay, so what we're looking at is a graph from the Pew Research Center, and it says most Americans have an unfavorable view of China, but positive views are increasing. So it says percent of adults who have a blank opinion of China. And so our green is our favorable and our blue is our unfavorable. So let's take a look. You see at the top, kind of right there, it says American Trends Panel. So right there, right, that line going down is about 2023. So we can see that low point at the very bottom there of the favorability, and then it starts to increase. So that's at 14% in 2023, and then it increases to 27% 2026. The unfavorability rating is also going down. I can't tell what number it's at. Let me see if I can pull up the data on my end. If I have the website still up, I don't think I do. So I can't get that exact number, but the unfavorability rating is going down. Fewer Americans are calling China an enemy compared to last year, though most still see it as a major competitor, which makes sense. Other countries are not enemies, but are competitors. Attitudes toward Xi Jinping are softening. 17% now voice confidence in him on world affairs, more than double from 2023, which is very interesting because confidence in President Trump's China policy is slipping, dropping 6 points since last year. Let's take a look at this graph here. Just kidding. That was a wrong graph. This one here. Americans are growing less confident in Trump's handling of China. So the blue is they feel not to / not at all confident, and the green is going very / somewhat confident. So the very / somewhat confident is dropping from 45% to 39%. And the not to / not at all confident is jumping from 55% to 60% from 2025 to 2026. So some interesting data there in terms of Americans' favorability on China and also their favorability on Trump and his policies in China. So what is the broader thing? What is this? Why is that? This ties into this trend that's actually been happening called China maxing, but I think it actually goes back further than that. I actually think it goes back to the TikTok ban. And let me explain why. When the TikTok ban happened in 2025 in January, for like a day, less than a day, people were going to this app called Red Note, which is a Chinese-owned app. And people on TikTok were saying that they did not care if China had their data. They just loved TikTok so much they didn't want it to go. That was the general consensus of social media around that time. And so I think that is the turning point between when Americans mostly had an unfavorable view of China to the tides are kind of changing. And I mean, we can see that in the data between 2025 and 2023 and 2026, but also 2025 and 2026. And so that's where I believe, in my opinion, in my analysis, that's where that shift came from. And then back to this China maxing thing, this happened like a month or two ago. And people in Gen Z, they're doing Chinese cultural appropriation, basically. They are taking things from Chinese cultural practices and posting themselves doing it. There's also the Labubus, and then, like I said, the Red Note app, the TikTok alternative. And so this is a massive shift from the COVID era, right? In COVID, we had a ton, actually the worst anti-Asian hate, and the U.S. and Chinese tensions were at their worst in COVID, and so we have this post-COVID shift towards now America is starting to grow fond of China, which is very interesting. Trump and Xi Jinping are set to meet in Beijing in May. Xi on Tuesday told Spain's prime minister that the world today is rife with chaos as it faces a showdown between justice and power. Also worth noting, Canada's favorability view of China has nearly tripled since 2021. And the Southeast Asian survey found a slim majority would choose China over the US if forced to pick. So super interesting. We'll see, like maybe over the coming years, months, this data changes. But we will keep you guys updated. I'm getting a call right now, but we will keep you guys updated. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching this video today, or this live stream, this podcast. Again, you can get it anywhere you get your live streams, or excuse me, anywhere you get your podcasts. The BDN War Room will be back tomorrow. I had some scheduling conflicts, as I mentioned, but otherwise, we will be back tomorrow. I appreciate you guys' support, and have a great Wednesday.